And welcome to episode 20 of Internet Traffic Kings. I'm the big fat boo, John Fondy, and we're coming to you from the campus of UNLV in fabulous Las Vegas. So you can see the streets are still a little slow out there, and they're kind of catching up to what's going on out there in terms of how businesses are going. But one of the things that you're going to be able to do is take some great information home with you. Even think about maybe even pivoting a little bit or changing what you're doing out there. We're going to give you some great information to be able to do that. I do want to remind our viewers that we are a non-ad supported program, which means we don't have commercial ads on there. So it is member supported, viewer supported, and you can really help us out a lot, kind of pay your keep, if you will, by going to Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. That would help us out a lot. You can also go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our Facebook is a good place to go. Spotify, you can listen to the show, and go to our website, and that's of course Internet Traffic Kings. There we go. .com as well too. So that kind of cues everything up right now to bring our executive producer. He's the click father, Kevin DiVincenzi. Hey, Kev.
Hey, how are you, John?
Doing good now. I noticed that I'm spotting some more merch here as well.
That's
too.
it.
So
Yeah.
Thanks for sending that out as well.
Absolutely.
So it's going to come in
Pleasure.
handy. So this is going to be great. If we ever get any conventions coming back, then we can go do some conventions, and we're all merched out and everything like that. So that's a good thing. So Kevin, episode 20, man, like we're like at almost at a half a year here. It doesn't seem like
it's flying by, John. It really is. I know. Time flies, right?
What kind of comments are you getting from the viewership out there? Are they liking what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you look on Apple Podcasts, we've got over 200 5-star reviews, and a lot of people are saying it's something they look forward to, and they're learning new things, which is great. I mean, that's what we're doing it for. We're not doing it because John and Kevin want to be internet famous. It's more to give back to the community and teach people. And because it's you mentioned in the last podcast, John, it is people helping people, and a lot of it in this industry, you do help people, and it comes back to you in some way, somehow. Not that you expect anything, but there may be a niche that I need help with, that somebody will be like, of course I'll help you, because you've helped me in the past, and that's just the best way to do it. Not just to hold everything tight to the vest and be like, oh well, it's that's my secret. It's much better to share. And at least for me, it's not all about the money. I mean, money's great, but it doesn't define who I am. So, well,
I mean, and the great thing about that is you're really right about, when you give, it comes back to you. It may not be immediately, but it also comes back immediately in the fact, like, well, hey, why not take the time to help somebody out if you possibly can? And Kevin, I know that you've been in this business for 23 years, and you charge a lot for your consulting because you're good at what you do and stuff. But now with everything that's going on now, not only you, but many of our guests are willing to just say, pick up the phone, give me a call, and let me see if I can help make your life a little bit better while this is going on. And it's going to make you feel better, as well. And so, so anyway, as you can see, Las Vegas is virtually closed now, or they're really cutting down on things like that. What are you seeing in your neck of the woods, Kevin? Any changes there?
No, I mean, everything is still pretty shut down. I'll go out and do my grocery shopping, which I saw a video where some guy was going grocery shopping, and there was the Coolio song on as he's walking into the grocery store, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I was like, that's pretty much sums it up, Yeah. You walk into a grocery store and you're like, you don't know what to expect. I ventured out to Costco on Sunday out here in LA, and the line was literally out the door around the parking lot just to get in. So obviously I just turned around. I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
That's the same here. I'm noticing a lot of traffic lined up at a lot of the schools waiting to get food as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've got a COVID bank here, as well as we do a food bank here at UNLV once a month or so. But I'm talking about cars that are lined up all the way around the block of the school. I mean, we're probably talking
Right.
500 cars and stuff.
Wow.
And I was really kind of surprised because I really thought that maybe we were just kind of adjusting a little bit with all the, with the unemployment extensions and the PPEs and all of that stuff like that. But I guess people are still somewhat suffering out there, just trying to get used to this.
Yeah, for sure. And the other big challenge that we're going to have is, there's still a lot of no eviction orders in place. And the challenge with that is that some of these people are not paying rent right now because they don't need to pay rent, even if they do have the money. But what's going to happen is a lot of them are now spending that money foolishly. So the end result you're going to have is now that money is due, right? I know, I own several properties in Nevada. In Nevada, if somebody can't pay right now, they still do need to sign a promissory debtor note to you, being the landlord. When that comes due, if these people don't have it, that's where the evictions are going to come in, and it's really going to be a very very sad time at that time. And I think October and November, a lot of them are going to be lifted. So.
Well, that's what I'm hearing too. And
yeah.
here in Las Vegas, they had one more unemployment $600 check that was supposed to go out to everybody, and it didn't go out.
Right.
And so people are just screaming and crying their eyes out, and oh my gosh, I'm going to be evicted. I'm going to be all this and stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, nothing changed. You got as much money as if you were working right now.
Right. Yeah. That's my big concern, is that people overspend and they don't budget properly. And, you think about instant gratification, you think about the now, but at some point the Pied Piper is going to come calling, and, you still owe that money. So that's going to create a big homeless problem in my estimation. And it's a shame. So
that's what they were talking about.
I've been thinking a lot about. You want to tell these people, hey, if you have it, pay it. Don't think there's no free ride. It's not that you're not gonna have to pay it, or it's not interest free if you have it.
And some of the houses that you still have notes on, you've still got to pay the bank as well too. So.
Well, that's the thing too. I had one of my renters that. That not to get too personal, but the guy does very well for himself, and he stopped paying during the pandemic. And I said, why? Well, it's COVID. The government's going to pay you. And I said, that's the most ignorant thing you could ever say. The government's not going to pay me. And this is one of my luxury rentals, right? So it's not even if there was a subsidy, which there's not, it wouldn't cover a quarter of the rent that this guy is supposed to be paying. So that's the challenge. Is people will take advantage of it. And we spoke on the last show about the first arrest on PPP fraud, and I'm sure we'll see more. Mm-hmm. These programs are made to help people, and that's great. But same thing with the unemployment, right? They have to redo how they're doing it because people were making more money being on unemployment than actually working. So during this pandemic,
and they're talking now about another, I guess you call it a stimulus check that's going to go out, but they're talking about reducing that $600 down to $200 now. So it's not like they just cut the whole thing off.
But John, the reason they're doing that is because literally people were making more money not working. Yeah. So, and I get it, right? They tried to rush a bill through and for relief, and I understand why it happened, but that's great. I applaud them for making an adjustment, because otherwise all you're doing is you're encouraging people not to work and not to, contribute to society. And I understand there's a lot of factors in the time that we're in right now. But it's just not, there's no longevity to it. It's not going to last,
And I gotta think that's just gotta change your mindset, or when you get used to something like that and you're not productive and you're not being creative and you're not challenging yourself. I run a mile to my gym, and then I work out and I run a mile back to my house. And I can't believe how many, big screen TV boxes are outside waiting in the trash. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's just not the thing to do right now when we're in the middle of something like this, because we don't know how we're going to come out on the other end of it. So we have to, the smart money is to is figure we're not going to come out of it and start living your life like we're not. And if we do, hey, that's good for everybody. But I guess, you can't, some people get kind of stuck on stupid and they
Yeah.
just, they don't do the right thing as well. And so,
Right.
and that's basically the way it is. So, can you feel it? Can you feel it heating up a little bit?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right.
It's heating up.
We're kind of stoking the fire again right here as well.
Yeah, it's
And
it's
what we're
funny
talking
that
about.
the home I have here in my second home in California, the backyard is actually cold. There's a constant breeze or wind, and then I go to the front of the house and it's freaking smoking hot. It's crazy. It's literally it's like two different worlds. My 6-year-old's like, "Daddy, I'm cold." I'm like, "We'll go outside."
Yeah.
Pretty
That's
crazy.
true. Um, so anyway, what we're starting to say is we're gonna jump out of the pan, throw you right in the fire, and throw a couple of questions at you here. So,
Sure.
if you don't mind, we've been getting a lot of comments and people like the hot seat questions and stuff, and we're
Great.
getting people to send questions in and stuff, so we want to keep asking you those questions, and the answers are good.
That's
It
great.
kind of breaks up the show a little bit here. So this one. This one comes from Memphis, Tennessee, of course,
Memphis.
a home of Elvis as well, and it's comes from Cheryl, and Cheryl says, "I know Google does not like affiliate traffic. Being an affiliate,
Correct.
how can I work around that so my ads don't keep getting disapproved and stuff?" And that's a diverse question for everything we're seeing going on in social.
Yeah. It's not just Google, by the way, Cheryl. Right? It's
Yeah,
not just
Cheryl.
it's not just Google, Cheryl. It's Facebook. It's quite a few different traffic providers. The way you get around it's very simple. Just make a landing page and then redirect your landing page or an interstitial page. I can never say that properly. And then redirect it over to the lander. So one of our properties that we buy quite a bit of traffic on, that's exactly what we do. Is I was going to name it and then I thought let me not name it, but we make a landing page and then the first piece of information comes into our landing page and then we post into our advertiser where they take the rest of the field. So we'll register a domain, call it johnfondy.com, and let's say we're doing a skincare offer. So johnfondy.com, let me go back. Let's say we're doing a skincare offer that's eventually an affiliate deal going to, give me a cosmetic company, John.
Maybelline.
Maybelline. So we're an affiliate for Maybelline.
Did I
But
come
if
up with that too quickly?
You did, but I noticed your eyes look less puffy today. So we're an affiliate for Maybelline. If we went through Maybelline's affiliate program through a link connector, whoever they use, we'd have this whole construed link with all these different codes and what have you in it. And Google, Facebook, etc., would decline the ad. So now we get our own landing page. John's bestskincaresecret.com. We host the first page with the product images and everything. Once they click to buy, it now goes through the affiliate link to Maybelline. That you can do. And that's what we do successfully in, diabetic strips, in pharmaceutical type offers, in healthcare type offers. That's the best way to get every ad approved. Because again, you're following guidelines now. It is going to your domain. There's no domain mismatch. But when they're taking when they're clicking for an action point, that's when it's redirecting to whatever affiliate link you have. And that tried and proven, that'll fix it all for you, Cheryl.
Well, good.
And where do I send the bill? Where do I send the bill?
No, you're helping Cheryl out now. Let's
Absolutely.
not forget that.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Google extends work from home until summer 2021. So they must know something,
Yeah, that came out about a week ago. Google's one of the biggest data aggregators, right? So if they've come up with, well, two things. You've got data that we don't know about that says this is going to last longer than we think, or I've been to Google offices many times and YouTube studios as well. They've got a very relaxed atmosphere anyway. You walk through the Google campus and there's somebody reading a book, and they actually have one one in Santa Monica, where they've got massage stations upstairs and, and exercise and a yoga studio. So they've got a very relaxed atmosphere anyway. So I'm thinking that they might have seen a spike in production from everybody working from home. So they're like, sure, we'll increase it for a year just to, if it's going to increase their productivity anyway, why not? And that goes back to what I've said for the past few months. I think commercial real estate's in a lot of trouble because a lot of people, at least a lot of CEOs that I'm talking to, I'm part of the Inc. 5000 virtual networking. So there's a lot of different CEOs, not just Inc. 5000, but Inc. 500, which, by the way, we made the Inc. 5000 list again 2 years in a row. So that's not public yet, but by the time this comes out, it should be public. So,
well, congratulations.
5,000 fastest growing companies in America. Thank you.
Okay.
But anyway, on those networking calls, a lot of these CEOs have the same sentiment where they're saying, you know what, we're going to downsize our office space. We're going to do a lot less as far as investing there. I'd rather give my employees perks to work from home and benefits to work from home and give them more flex time. We're going to see better productivity. So I think that's where we're going.
The show gets more exciting every time we do this as well. And, we've gotten some emails about bringing on some of the more powerful women in our industry. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm really excited to get to know this young lady. She's been in the business for a long time. She's probably the hardest working gal in show business. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to Internet Traffic Kings, Sweeney Mae. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for calling me powerful. I love that term for sure. So I'm happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to be with the Kings.
Well, that's right. We are the Kings. That's what we try to do, is we try to put out information. It's a non-advertiser supported show, so we try to just bring on the guests, and everybody really kind of helps everybody else and stuff like that. So you're a pretty busy lady, and I guess what they say is if you want to get something done, go to the busiest people that you know, and I'm sure you would be one of those as well.
There you go.
Yes, totally. Busy is an understatement, but it's been a lifestyle for me. So I don't even notice how busy or stressed I can get sometimes.
And so you've been in the corporate world for quite some time, but always, circling around the marketing world and making events and things of that happen. But you've also are strong enough to realize that, hey, let's go ahead and start a company, and that's exactly what you've done. Tell us a little about that as well.
For sure. Yeah. So I've been in the corporate world since after I graduated high school, which was not too long ago. But I started with Macy's, and then I also worked for Expedia before. And then my full-time job right now is actually I'm a marketing director for over 10 years now at a shopping center in the city of Carson. The shopping center has been owned by a couple of different owners, but one of the owners that I've had a pleasure to meet and work with was Fred Sands, the late Fred Sands, who was a mogul in the real estate world here in Los Angeles. So I've had the pleasure to, sit down, have dinner with him, be in his company and just, see the genius behind his brand. And like you said, also ventured into starting my own company. I guess I can't just sit still. So there are some things I want to do that is not covered within my full-time job. So I just, some of those things are hobbies that became, something that I could monetize. So I decided to just, start a company officially. So, I can take advantage of the benefits of having a company, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that world, I get to work with people I want to work with. And I've loved having the side hustle because I think having that as a side hustle, it gives me a chance to kind of pick and choose who I want to work with, right? So I've had a side hustle that's doing a lot of events, and in the past I've produced fashion shows, and comedy shows, you name it, and then and also weddings and birthdays, things like that. But I've gravitated more towards marketing, which was my major in college, and I found that I found a lot more joy in helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, or people who are just starting with marketing. And so I've kind of focused more on that than with events.
Yeah, it also seems like...
Let's face it, too.
Go ahead, Ken.
John, I was just going to say, let's face it, we're action junkies, right, Sweeney? So whatever's not filling your need at your normal job, you're getting by doing all these other events and everything else. Like, we'd love to see the result of what we can do as far
For
as
sure.
marketing. That's
For
the
sure.
payoff, right? So I say, yeah, action junkies is Sweeney promoting an event and seeing, a room full of people. That's the payoff. Yeah.
Yes.
My follow-up question, Sweeney, just so John can take a breath. In regards to your shopping mall, what are you seeing and what does the future hold with regards to COVID?
That's a great question. Of course, I have my own assumptions and predictions. Sure. And I think that, especially the small businesses. So my shopping center where I work at has a lot of smaller businesses and mom and pops. And I think it's forcing them to transition their efforts into places that they should have already been, like social media, like they should have been in social media, but a lot of them aren't.
Google Maps.
Yes, Google Maps, selling things online, just even using Instagram. Take a picture of your product, put it on Instagram, let people know you have it, let people reserve that item, even if you're not doing transactions online. But it's so easy to use Shopify or, PayPal or anything to make transactions, and people can come and pick up the orders. I think that should be one of the easiest first steps that they could pivot into as a business owner. But as far as nationals, I think it's helping us clean the house, right? There's a lot of nationals that weren't already doing well, and the pandemic is just forcing their hand to either restructure or, think of something else because it's not working.
Right. Makes sense.
In many cases, they don't know what they don't know, and it gives you a chance to come in and analyze what they're doing and sort of ease them into it a little bit and find out what their hot buttons are, what their pressure points are, and kind of start from there and kind of grow them into what they probably should have been doing maybe a long time ago.
Right. Well, and they're so uncomfortable with anything online. So it's kind of pulling teeth, but it's also a great challenge. Like, what content, what memo can I put out there? What newsletter? How can I put this newsletter together to make them feel comfortable? Oh, that's all I have to do? Oh, that's great. So as a marketing director for the shopping center, I can only spoon feed them so much, So for example, I have an app, and I can, pay more for this app to do more for them, but they really should do it for themselves, because what happens if this app goes away? So they should have their own platform for sure.
Well, I could see a service there, Sweeney, that you could provide almost to do it yourself to transition some of these vendors into the online space. Because I agree with you. Some people they don't get it, right? They don't understand what it takes to move into online. And it's not really difficult, especially in this day and age. Everything is point and click. You can set up a shop, literally in an hour. But a lot of these people they're so comfortable. When you think about the impact of what's happened with COVID, I mean, any industry you can think of, my daughter not going back to school, and I'm thinking, okay, put aside the school, what about the uniform shops? A lot of those uniform shops are mom and pops that have been in business 30, 40 years, family owned, and they hold all this inventory. And then, come late summer into maybe November, that's their big boom, right? That's where they do, majority of their sales and everything. That's all gone. Like, you're not going to buy a uniform for your kids staying home. So there's definitely a lot of changes. But, if you look back in history, most of the big companies were formed during a downturn, during a depression or during a downturn or during a recession, and I'm talking about Apple, Microsoft, so many of the bigger companies. So innovation will happen as a whole. It's just, where and who's looking for that. So you can either be a victim or you can be a player and figure out, okay, what's next? How can I evolve in this environment? Are the malls, and again, I'm going to speak generally because I don't want you to pinpoint, who you work for, but are you hearing, are the malls provide relief to these small business owners as far as deferring rent or anything, or are they just, because it's got to be a tough position for them as well. I could imagine, I say on almost every podcast, I'd hate to hold commercial real estate right now because you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But what are they doing?
It varies really from companies to companies. There are big real estate commercial companies that own shopping centers that
Right.
are probably able to subsidize or do anything for their tenants,
Sure.
but then there are some who can't. But that's why for me, for instance, I try to keep my tenants abreast of all these like SBA loans or anything like that,
Yes,
because
right.
then they can avail the loans, you know, to pay for their rent, you know, so then it's just a trickle effect. So the smaller guys do have to do their part and take advantage of whatever the government is making available for them.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's so invigorating to have a professional like you are, but you're also a very strong female, and time just flies when we're getting into all this. I'd like to ask you if maybe you would come back on again and we could have maybe a little bit of a longer segment and kind of highlight some of the things that kind of got you where you are today, and maybe be an inspiration to other female business owners out there as well. Would you consider coming back on again?
Oh my gosh, without a doubt, for sure. That's I'm very grateful to be here and for you guys to have contacted me and chosen me to be a part of this podcast. So I'll definitely come back.
Hey, that's great. We're having a great time here on Internet Traffic Kings. I'm the big Fabu, John Fondi, and one thing we do in this particular segment is we take the chains off, if you will. We take the chains off, take them off the porch, throw them a bone, and we bring on the big dog. We're talking about Bennett Kelly. Woof, woof.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, doing well, man. Doing well. So you're in Santa Monica. You know, are things weird down there as well, Bennett? And are you even going into the office?
Actually, I mainly, our office is had some strict controls, and so I go in to get my mail and mainly work from home. Tomorrow, I will be appearing in court by a video. LA County has just implemented a new system where you can appear by video, where I guess you have a shirt and tie and no pants. And so that'll be the first time I'll be doing that. And I've done a lot of telephone appearances. I did a court appearance where I was actually physically there, drove 80 miles to get there, only to have it pushed back 2 months. So
yeah, I think that I guess, you know, if you were a prosecutor, that, you know, you would kind of lose that third dimension, if you will, of being able to get up front and close to the jury.
Well, there's also, I mean, the criminal side, civil is different. Criminal side, there's actually constitutional issues about being able to see and confront your accuser, and their right to a speedy trial. It really, COVID it's really going to slow down the civil side of the judicial system, because they're going to have to, you know, give priority for the criminal cases, and you're already seeing a lot of court systems are announcing that they'll be delaying trials, you know, for 6 months or more. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing we talked about this earlier. If you are possibly looking at a dispute, if you're the person who has to, you know, chase the money, you're looking at a lawsuit that you won't get heard really in a meaningful way until 2022, 2023. And so if there's a dispute and involves money, and it might be better to hold on to the money.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm hearing in and out stuff that's going on with you know, some of the social media sites, some of the buying sites and stuff, antitrust stuff. Is that going to heat up, or what has your big ear been to the ground, and what can you tell us about that?
Well, there's a lot going on here, and there's actually two currents going on, and one of them is going to be timed to actually play out during the election cycle. So you may recall President Trump issued an executive order on social media companies a couple of weeks back. And part of the executive order was he directed the Department of Commerce to petition the FCC for rulemaking regarding social media companies. And there's one provision of the law called CDA 230. It's the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. And basically what it says is those platforms don't have liability for what third parties put up, or for efforts they may take to police their sites as in order to encourage their sites. And at once Twitter started flagging some of President Trump's tweets, he got upset and then started to pursue this. And so there's a certain irony in that the start of the administration, you had the FCC reversing Obama-era net neutrality rules because the idea was we shouldn't be regulating the internet. And so in this petition to the FCC, the Trump administration actually cites the Obama-era rules that were invalidated by his FCC as a basis for why the FCC should regulate social media companies. And he wants to impose restrictions on how they're able to moderate content. And it raises a whole lot of First Amendment issues. If moderating's difficult as it is, and if you create liability behind it, it may actually just result in less content. Companies may decide to hell with it. We just won't have the content, or flip side, we won't moderate, and then you just have a whole bunch of crap out there. The same time, you got a competing structure outside the U.S. Europe has a different history. Because of Nazi Germany, if you put stuff on Hitler online, Nazi stuff online in France and in Germany, that's a criminal offense. And so the social media companies are getting a lot of pressure over there to act quickly with respect to hate speech. And so, we have two conflicting approaches. So that's going on right now. And so they filed the petition on Monday. And the way there's a certain process, it's going to take a week or two for the FCC to publish the petition for comment. Public comments will be made, and then a reply will be made. Well, wouldn't you know it, that whole process is going to take place in September and October, right during the election season, and allow people to argue about whether or not social media companies are filtering out conservative views, as President Trump says, even though there really isn't evidence to support that. So that's one thing that's going on. But right now, I know we're taping this, but as we speak, in Congress, you have very high-powered, a lot of Amex black cards, and I guess it's all remote, but in any event, you have Google, Facebook, Amazon, testifying before the House Judiciary Antitrust Subcommittee. And there have been a lot of questions about anti-competitive conduct of all three major big tech actors. And all of them have some form of investigation, either domestically or in Europe. And, I may have mentioned earlier, I started my career working with a firm that was founded by a former FTC director, and we did a fair amount of antitrust work, and including working on a major $100 million verdict case. And antitrust laws serve a purpose. The theory is that monopolies stifle innovation, and you saw that in the 90s when the Clinton administration brought a antitrust suit against Microsoft, and for using their power and systems to control market in the browser area.
Right.
And so there's the theory that holds that basically while that suit was pending, that constrained Microsoft in a way that allowed Google to get off the ground. And that, but for that lawsuit, Google may never have survived. And so there you see the benefit of enabling, innovation. And there's a lot of controversy when the Bush administration came over and dropped the lawsuit. Even some, very free market antitrust people who were pretty outraged about it. But in any event, one area that's interesting about antitrust and technology is you look at what happens if someone raises the price 5%, 10%. Can someone enter the market? And the theory in technology is, well, this is technology's innovations. Of course, someone can enter the market, but that's becoming increasingly harder when you have these huge platforms, and right. they control the system. And so, take for example Amazon. when they're able to game the system and able to use user data of, and compete, both be the platform and the competitor, is
Right.
that an antitrust violation? Facebook, when they get such a huge share of the social media platforms with Instagram and, and Facebook, and, they're their own environment, is
Right.
that anti-competitive? Google, is there, the way they favor some of their content over others, using that in advertising platforms, or even YouTube, for example. And so this is going to be looked at carefully, and particularly if you get a Biden administration that comes in, they tend to be more aggressive on antitrust. I think all three of these companies, at least one of them is going to look different 5 years from now if things are going.
That's a good point. Well, and we'll kind of check in with you from time to time to kind of see what's changing, what's going on. But let's kind of loosen things up here a little bit. Tell us, Bennett, something that nobody knows about you. Something that nobody knows about you.
Well, not nobody knows. Now you're going to get him in trouble with his wife. He's going to say something he doesn't want to say. More like something most people don't know is what I would say.
It's I guess maybe my dad was in World War II.
Oh, wow.
And he was a navigator on a bomber and flew about 27 missions over Germany in World War II. And his actually first mission was Dresden, which was, I don't know if you've heard about it, it was quite an awful firebombing and kind of somewhat controversial. But, I'm the youngest of seven. And so there's a 40-year gap between me and my parents. And so they're of the whole Depression era, Greatest Generation era. And I've heard a lot of stories about what they went through during that era, particularly World War II, even from my aunts and uncles about how, they had to have rationing. I had an uncle who his job was to guard the beach. If people went on the beach at night, you'd get shot. They drove around with
just like Kevin's neighborhood.
They had rationing. They drove around. You had to put this black thing on your headlights at night, so you didn't alert people, so people couldn't see you from the air. And it was just a different environment. And I just think of the great sacrifices they did for, from 1941 to 1945. And I think about that in today's context when, people just don't even want to wear a mask. And
Right.
Good. That's true. So,
all right,
click.
John, you're up.
I'm up. Well,
putting you on the hot seat.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Something that most people probably don't know about me is when I first started my career in Hollywood,
Which was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's about right. I was a male exotic dancer.
Whoa! Where?
I worked at Chippendales, and I worked at a couple of other clubs. I went to Japan on a tour in Japan, and actually, I wasn't. I danced, but I was the MC of the show, and that's how I kind of got my chops up and stuff like that. So there's some coffee table information that nobody would
Are
ever
you
know.
serious, John?
Yeah.
The Japan tour must have been a lot of fun.
It was great. I learned a few words in Japan.
Really? Oh my gosh! That's
did the whole show in English, and they actually had geisha girls in the club.
Wow! What's the Japanese word for penicillin?
Fondue.
So now with that information, it's really interesting, John. Never thought that. I mean, I've joked about it, but never thought that you were an actual exotic dancer. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So something most people don't know about me. I am an 8th grade dropout.
Wow, that's true.
Totally self-taught. Well, see, you knew it. Aha. Yeah, totally self-taught, and that's the big thing, which would be interesting in meetings because I'd meet with a lot of different people, you know, and oh, well, what college you go to and what college did you go to? And I graduated this. And again, I think very highly of education. It just, that wasn't my path.
Yeah.
You know, and then they'll look to me who's heading the meeting and be like, so where did you graduate? And I go, grammar school, you mean? I actually didn't, you know. They go, what? No, you're kidding, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm constantly learning, reading, evolving, and, you know, self-taught. And
Well, awesome.
That seems to work for me. You know, my 24-year-old daughter, you know, graduated college and got her degree, and great for her. And people have different paths, and I respect that.
Well, awesome, you guys. Appreciate it so much. A nice little segment. We learn a little something that we do.
Absolutely.
We hope you learned a little bit from these shows by tuning in to the Internet Traffic Kings. Remember, this is it's a non-advertiser supported show, which means we don't have any commercials in there. So, but you still can help us out if you would go give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. If you listen to us on Spotify, go to our YouTube channel, doing really, really well on the YouTube channel. Facebook is going great, and
Internet Traffic Kings on YouTube.
Our Internet Traffic Kings site as well. So that's kind of what's going on with that. So anyway, so there's another one in the bag, which I'm usually half in that bag, as it is anyway when we do the shows. But anyway,
there you go.
Everybody here at the Internet Traffic Kings on the Big Fabu, broadcasting from the campus of UNLV in fabulous Las Vegas. We'll see you next time on Internet Traffic Kings.
See you.